Well, hello and welcome. We are here for race 4 of the ZRL Zwift Community Racing League Season 3, 21-22. I am Kate Bates, joined by the voice himself, Dave Towle. Dave, it's been a big day for you already commentating. There's been a lot of action on Libby Hill, and we're here for America West to bookend the week.
Yeah, hey, Kate, it's so good to see you. So, hey, we have had fantastic racing. I was talking with Nathan about this. Racing just doesn't disappoint. It really almost doesn't matter what course Martin lays out there. These races have at it. But the format, and this goes back to sort of well, week one, we didn't have the finished fastest through segments and the first across the line. When you add that back in, I'm starting to realize why that makes the racing so awesome here. It's been the counterattacks after the sprints. The action is nonstop out here. We're going back to Richmond, but this is a great example of esports, Kate, and the way that the course designers can come up with unique eventual outcomes, because this is basically a sprinter's delight out here with the fan flats 5 laps before they drop down and then head over to Libby Hill. I think you would have loved this course during your heyday in your racing career.
Yeah, this is the kind of course that I get very excited about. We started last night with APAC, Dave, and everybody on social media and even Anna and I were saying this is Sprinter's Paradise. But then as the race started unfolding, the impact of these fastest through segments and the first across line and just the format of it means actually there's a lot of opportunities for other riders, not just the sprinters, and there's a lot of opportunities for anybody with enough bravery to certainly have a dig and wear the legs out of the sprinters. We also did find, and I'm really interested about what has happened in all of the geographical time zones in between, but in APAC, the sprinters who were there at the finish actually didn't participate a lot in the intermediate sprints, and the ones who got a lot of through the FTS and FAL, they weren't quite there at the finish. So we have to consider that when we're looking. Now, let's have a quick look at what Cy Bradley had to say about this week, because he's got a few interesting thoughts.
Hey Zwifters, welcome to Richmond for the Libby Hill after party. And despite the name Libby Hill, this is a sprinter's paradise. So roll out the quadzillas, bring out the big guns, let's get our sprint on. No need for Anna Russell's whiteboard this week because there's just 3 segments to contend, albeit the first segment we're going to do 5 times. We're here on the fan flats and it's the Monument Street forward sprint, 220 metres, all about power, all about speed and all about great timing. But watch out for those splits that could happen later on subsequent laps after this sprint. 3 power-ups along the way, the aero, the draft and the dreaded burrito, disabling that draft for 10 seconds, everyone with a 2.5 meter radius. Once we've done this 5 times, we're going to head to the Broad Street sprint, and again we're going to do this once, but there's fastest through and first across the line before we then descend Broad Street and head towards the infamous Libby Hill Cobbles. And here it is, the final segment, the infamous Libby Hill Cobbles. The segment itself is around about 700 metres, but it's this part here, the final 300 metres, where the final and the winning moves are going to come. Utilise those power-ups, utilise that power, put it all on the line to maximise the finish line points, the fastest through points, and first across the line points on this, the finish line and final segment of the Libby Hill after party. Good luck and ride on.
The replay from the women's first sprint, because that has happened. They get into it very, very quickly now. 33.1 kilometres in total racing. And we're looking at the first sprint here. Dave, a lot of players throwing down a lot of watt bombs, but Joy Connolly, great to see her back.
Yeah, it certainly is, and not a surprise at all. Let's watch how this plays out. That's the ATP racer using the draft power up there, as Cy mentioned. And Cy, you do a great job with those. Aero Draft and Burrito out here. But this is Daniela Torelli coming through for the DDC team, the Canadian on that squad. They have been absolutely just brutally strong out here. And let's see, there got more DDC coming on. So well played with the power ups as we get a nice slow motion look here at the front of this group. So we're going to go right into live
Ooh,
action now.
And good to see Jana Gillick up there as well. We had an Anzac Classic, Dave, on Monday. Here it was Anzac Day in Australia, which is our Remembrance Day for the Australia and New Zealand Army Corps, as well as a minute's silence. We also like Anzac biscuits, so we'll have to get you some of those if you haven't had any before.
So, Kate, I think that's something that, every nation and certainly part of the world has their own history, but it's something that in the United States we haven't talked about all that much. But there is a tremendous amount of, I guess it's fair to say, punching above your weight, small but mighty group of Australians and New Zealanders that went up to fight in World War II and had a significant impact. And I believe it's Liège-Bastogne-Liège, the course that goes right by where a lot of that heavy fighting and the unreal casualties. Am I basically getting the story right that that's where the pride lies, is that this group went up and just showed exactly what Australian heart is and participated in the world stage, which had to make you very, very proud because you were coming from the other side of the planet to fight the World War for what was the right thing to do.
Yeah, that's correct. And so Australians have a very strong tie with that area in Belgium and also with Gallipoli in Turkey, which is where our troops first landed. And Anzac Day has become a very special holiday in Australia because the younger generations have really picked up and almost to ensure that what is now their great grandparents memories and sacrifices aren't lost. So it is a pretty special day, and we marked it on Zwift, Dave, with a little bit of a throwdown between the Aussies and the Kiwis, and we had a few other riders jump in. So I was pretty pleased to see some of the community riders, especially some of the Canadians, jumping in. Karsten Avani, our RC Avani, he was there. Great to see him, and also learn that his name is Karsten. So that
I did not know that. So we were calling him RC. So well, you would have been proud. He had a great race earlier today as well in the ZRL. Kate, that's really awesome to hear. By the way,
and so we had it. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, carry on. Well, the reason I even thought of it is because we had a couple of DDC riders and the women were thrown in with the men, but it gave us a really good chance to talk about DDC and the impact that they've had in the women's racing scene, because on the men's side, we tend to look more to Aero and NZ Bro are the two really big influencing development forces in Australia and New Zealand. But DDC has just got this fantastic global footprint of really developing riders through, and I'm just loving what they're doing.
I couldn't agree more. So that's Kat Salthouse that Nathan was on for a moment there, a strong rider. Boy, this is going to be interesting. Now, you leave this race for a couple of minutes and come back and things can be entirely different. It can be very active out here. A lot of Canadian flags, the maple leaf up on top of our screen. So we have a lot of sprinting and fastest through segments. We've talked about how you never really know what lap that's going to happen. Part of it has to do with the power up that you've got and the timing of things here. Jana Gillick, you mentioned her, Kate. Here comes the WCC rider. So this is a big play going on right now. And you can see WCC all over the front ATP. How are they going to respond here, Kate? The points really stack up quickly when teams go out aggressively. More often than not, it's paid off. Well, here comes that monster, Joy Connolly. It's on here at the front. This has been the story of the day. Back to you, Kate Bates.
I feel like we're having a reunion of some of the biggest names in this league that have been here, some of them every week, but some of them a bit on and off. It's great to see Jana Gillick back. And she's certainly a very consistent powerhouse and very experienced racer. Deirdre Douglas was the rider from WCC who jumped off the front. And she did so using a power-up, the burrito, which we can talk about a little bit more in a moment, Dave. But it shows me that they've been watching the action that's been happening in the other regions, in East, in EMEA, in APAC, and they know that at the beginning you can sit and you can take the sprints, but as each sprint ticks off, and there are 5 of them on this Monument Forward sprint, that everybody's starting to get a little bit tired. And before they hit this
Oh,
sprint,
yeah.
Dave, let's just very quickly explain the fastest through segment, because it's a little bit different to previous seasons. So can you talk us through that and the potential to get a whole lot of points if you come here with your sprinting legs?
Yeah, thanks, Kate. I'm actually proud of myself that I can explain this. It's fastest through segment is one of the elements that, okay, well, actually, let me follow Joy Connolly. I'm not ducking out of that, because right now Joy Connolly could
No,
very well be
please.
collecting 20 points. So one thing about fastest through segment is it's always in play when you look at this arch. This is Monument as we're coming through. I believe this is the ladies' third sprint that they're completing. I'm going to have to check my math there, but that's going to be Laura Thompson of the Cadence team in the green jersey. Second sprint. I'm sorry. The men just getting on, of course. That's the second time that they've second of 5. That's also, Kate, going back to your question, and we'll review those points and be able to display them for you there. So every time that you have a first across the line, that's a traditional sprint. That scores 10 deep from first down to 10th, and it's declining by 1 point each place. So 10 for the first place rider on down. Pretty straight ahead. And you could win then a maximum of 50 points, 50 points then, if you won every sprint. And we actually had a rider who came very close to doing that today. Coralie Arthur out of Scotland. She's just unbelievable, Kate. I can't wait for you to watch her race. So that being said, there's another. So I mean, Nathan can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I see it, until we get to the finish where there's a lot of points, the best a rider could do would be 90 total points. And that would be, I'm just kind of looking at it, almost impossible best case scenario, Kate, to show you the top of the table. That would be winning 5 times 10 on the first across the line sprints, and then having 2 20 and 20, that's 40 points to make 90 fastest through segments. Now, the first one, this is where it gets a little complicated, is that the first one, you have 5 different opportunities. You go through that segment 5 times, and that can update. So let's see right now. I can tell that Laura Thompson has the second fastest time through because she's got 15 points, because that scores differently. Instead of 10 down to 1, it scores 20 down to 1, and it's stacked a little top. Well, not, I was going to say it's stacked top heavy. It's stacked the way it should be. The points are 20 for the fastest through, 15 for the second fastest through, and then third for the third fastest through. Now, this is where it gets really complicated. What if one rider has the first and second fastest through on the same segment? So that's where you start to add up. That's where it becomes possible to make even more than 90 points. And so yeah, so it's obviously really, really interesting, but these are the points that the riders earn out there. Each team starts with 6 here in the ZRL, in the community, and the community is where it's at right now for this kind of racing. This is the highest level that we have in esports on Zwift. 6 riders, and each one of them gets as many points as they can. We've seen uh, so we're going to go over to the men's race now, but Kate, I know I took a lot of time there, but there's quite, I mean, the more advanced the racing gets, it's not that simple. You don't just show up and race and pedal as hard as you can. Back to you though, Kate.
No, great, great explanation. And I think it is really important that both the viewers and the riders understand the slightly different format. Also, anybody watching, do remember that we do have our 5K hero back this week. And Dave and I, it's a bit more democratic than over in APAC, where it's a bit
Yeah.
more of a dictatorship by Anna
Oh,
Russell.
I hear you.
Some call her the whiteboard queen, but after the dictatorship I'm experiencing, I call her other things. Anyway, so please give us a shout out for anybody who you think deserves that 5K hero. Now, this is early days, but this is interesting because Schaefer and Mogg have already started to put the pressure on. Now, the point system, as you just explained, completely changes the balance of the sprints and how they may work and how you may be able to accrue points. And it does, in effect, take the focus off that final sprint up Libby Hill. There is bragging rights always in actually crossing the line first. I mean, not least because the results board at the end of the day make a good screenshot when your name's up there, and which doesn't happen if you accrue the most points. We might have to get onto that to make sure that the highest point earner is also getting their recognition. But so I think that a lot of the riders are looking at this in a far more strategic way and thinking, as you've said, how do I maximize those points? And that might not be about riding in a typical way that you would if you were trying to win. So 8 seconds is not insignificant. I don't think, and here's the clanger, they'll get first across the line, I think. At this point, they'll hang on to it. But they're unlikely to get the fastest through segment. And given the weighting of those points, there's not a lot of impetus for any sprinters within the bunch or any of their supporting teams to chase for them or to bring this back, because they can just sit pretty, get comfortable and go for that fastest through and still accrue that big points balance.
Well said, Kate. I would have to say that the fastest through segment is going to go to a rider who's in a chasing peloton with relatively fresh legs, who starts in the middle of the group, surfs to the front, and deploys their power up at just the right time. And it wouldn't be using the burrito power up, that's for sure. I have a couple of questions, but I did want, so I'm going to ask you about cobblestones in Australia, whether if there's any that exist, and burritos in Australia, if any exist. But before we go there, Kate, this was working with Nathan earlier today. Remember when we invented the 5K to go hero, the brain trust, the hive that we've got at Zwift Community Live? Well, we've come up with something I think you might like. And we'll look at the action here, but points per minute. What rider picks up or accrues the most points per minute? I think that's really interesting. And then we talked about efficiency out here. We're going to go back to the front of the races. Pete Mogg, the people's champion. I love what Pete is all about. And, of course, P. Schaefer here, but they're going to be caught, Kate. I'm going to throw it back to you as it's hotting up. Look at this group. It is strung out like a runway model right now. Wow.
I think that is the best and the most politically incorrect thing I've ever heard you say, great man Dave Towle. I love it. I'm writing that down. Production team, if you could please clip that audio. That's you, Nathan. We've got Deirdre Douglas over on the women's screen. She's leading out. But you're right about the men. It was what we would definitely call strung out, more of a straight line. A lot less drafting can go on when it is not blob,
Real
but
fight.
We are seeing that blob come back together. I think after the first 2 to 3 sprints, if it mirrors anything we've seen earlier in the day, it will continue. We have the saying, Dave, where we say it's like an elastic band and it stretches and you get back on, but then eventually it snaps. And that's the kind of attritional race that they talk about in this scenario. Joy Connolly, she's at it again, Dave. She is hunting not just across line, but certainly these fastest through with this enormous burst of power.
There is no question that Joy has put herself in the elite group. How about Laura Thompson timing that one perfectly?
How about
Daniela
that?
Corelli. Yeah, nice job. And then Jana Gillick coming through here. These are the usual suspects in these sprints. Watch the damage being done now. We talked about it being strung out. Well, one thing's for sure, from tip to tail, oh boy. Look at this now. This group is going to lose more than a few riders as they are punching tickets at the back. This is where you start taking some inventory, Kate. We've seen this multiple times today where top riders have got caught at the back of the group. Now, sometimes at the end of the day, it's because their job was done. But right here, it gets ragged. And this is where Fan Flats is much tougher, and it's because of the way the racers are racing out here. It's not exactly flat. There's a little bit of a kicker, a 3% grade. And Nathan talked about using that as a launch pad out here. Things are going to settle down, but this group is a little smaller every time they make an effort like that, Kate.
Yeah, and that can be just a really good, consistent way to race. There'll be a lot of riders who are just content with it being whittled down, and each time they have less. But then there's also going to be a whole heap of riders. I'm thinking Laura Thompson is probably in this group where they will just be, recovering using the bunch and then sprinting. Interesting to see Stephanie Ossenbrink taking a bit of an attack here, but also with the use of a power-up. So whether that was necessarily the attack as she meant it, or whether the dropping of the power-up just propelled her forward a bit, I'm not quite sure. but she's not opening up too much of a gap because the bunch today is very vigilant. At the front, maybe at the back, there's a little bit less vigilance, but that power is dropping back down from all of them. But again, a move now. This is Holtham is going. Very responsive pack, though. I can't see this being able to be let go at all. So they're wanting to keep it pretty tight at the front.
Every time this happens, it just continues to put the pressure back on the group. WCC has been super active here today, and Joy Connolly is back at it now. So these 5 sprints, these fastest through segments here on Monument lead you over to, oh boy. So look at, I haven't seen this state before, Pickle Rick. So, oh my God, they killed Kenny. Good grief. You thought the women's race was active. Well, the men are following suit, Kate. Again, the shape of this peloton tells you everything you need to know. There's going to be a lot of chins on handlebars out here as everybody's going to be absolutely burying themselves. Look at this now. My goodness, Kate. These guys are having at it, and this is just coming up on sprint number 2. Wow.
Mike Dawes is a really powerful rider. We actually haven't seen too much of him this season so far, and I think this is a course that's certainly very better suited to him. He's certainly a high power rider with a big acceleration. Speaking of which, we've seen the move from Brett Boniface has gone. That's massive. Look at he's just tearing it apart. Fraser just behind. Dave, this is a super dangerous move because it's not just about those two at the front. It's about what it's doing, that ripple effect through the back.
Well, this will have repercussions. There's no doubt about it in every way that you look at it. Now, they're going to pay a big price for this effort, but maybe it will all be worth it because the damage is going to be extensive. Somebody better call the National Guard right now because this is definitely no longer Richmond. This is downtown Pain City. I got to love this kind of effort here. So let's see what we've got now. Could they race this any more aggressively? So Kate, as a sprinter sitting back in that group, you've got to be shaking your head, right? As you just never get an opportunity to recharge out here. They're going to stay on the gas, on the throttle. And this is what Brett is all about. This is the Canadians' MO. Talk about Canucking up. And it's a 2-man. It's a double dip right now. I think that, Kate, it's extremely likely that these two are going to take the points here and continue to be a problem. This is going to be the thorn in the side of this bike race for quite a while, as Brett has got, I'm not sure who, so it's Fraser. I'm sorry there. I was looking at FKA Creature Unlocked. I have no idea what is going on in the chase. It is bananas, but that's going to be first and second on the points. Look at this now. Amato, third. We'll keep scoring here, down 10 deep, but obviously the significance is the danger of these two off the front, Kate. Fraser and Boniface. Boniface.
Yeah, Boniface. It just makes me laugh to pronounce it that way, but please do tell
he's
me,
a great
Brett,
guy.
if that is offensive to you in any way.
He's cool with it. No, Kate, I've had a chance on social media to hear from him enough. He's a great guy, and if he had a problem, he would have said something by now. I'm sure.
Excellent.
Because he communicates. Yeah, he's
Excellent.
Great. I love the guy.
Just offending my way around the globe with my interesting pronunciation, one time zone at a time. Brett Boniface has been so aggressive the entire season. He has just always put himself in the right position. But you did say that the sprinters don't get a break here and they would be just shaking their head. Again, I'll hark back to the fact that if they just sit in the bunch and just do those sprints in a really strategic way, they can still get massive FTS points. And so to them, as long as somebody brings it back and as long as they're able to still access that no matter where they are in the bunch, they could still end up with a whole heap of points. And so we could end up seeing the biggest points winner being from, a group that we barely even see. Now, it's kind of mixed fortunes, actually, for OMG today, Dave, because while we've just seen Boniface and Fraser go off the front, Pickle Rick has been jettisoned a little bit at the back, and so that would make him a little bit cranky, I would imagine, when that's
He's
happening
upset
from the actions of your teammate.
So So we actually have access to their Discord. Nathan has been monitoring that, and it's just a little rough for not the language, but just the sound because
There's a lot
they're
of heavy
breathing like
breathing.
dying wolverines. And but Nathan did say that Pickle Rick was a little bit upset, and then there was a word that might be offensive to some. Certainly, Kate, your princess-like sensibilities would not be
Oh,
offended, I
yes.
don't think. But
Well, I was
um,
going to say between the heavy breathing and the swearing, it sounds like a maternity ward. If you listen to those guys disco, so we,
that's a
we
great
won't bring that
analogy.
in.
That's funny.
uh,
So, oh,
the women are sprinting again, Dave. Thompson is the first to hit out. Joy Connolly a little bit further back, but Thompson, this is a massive effort. She's going for the STS as well as the FAL, I think.
hello, 5K to go hero board. I'd like to turn in my ticket for
Mm.
Laura Thompson at this point. I'm an early voter from America named Dave, and there's no doubt that Laura Thompson would get mine. But look at this. The counter is coming. Joy Connolly going to, well, nope. Joy gets the points, though. So it looks like things are going to settle down. It's damage being done every single time. We've seen some top names, Kate, after the fifth sprint, they're kaput. Enough is enough. Their legs
Mm.
sign off, over and out, done and done. So this is another, see, as you look back here, I'm surprised they weld this back as often as they do. I just think everybody's a little nervous about what's going to happen at Libby Hill, and they don't want to maybe write a check that they can't cash with their legs here. Better to be a little conservative at this point, especially if you've already done a good job for your team. And that's a pretty small group, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, we definitely noticed that there was a completely different cohort of riders sprinting on the flats versus what then happened on Libby Hill. I mean, we of course you have some crossovers, but for the most part, they're a very different group of names that we were kind of watching throughout and thinking, oh, we haven't seen a lot of. I will throw it in when we get to the men, who I'm wondering why we haven't seen them yet and whether they're maybe saving some of their juice for toward the end. That could be the case, and that is, look at this.
Oh my
Rick
gosh.
looks
Did you
like
hear?
he's gotten back, and
That's what they're
well,
saying
it
on the
sounds
radio.
like the description from Nathan. It sounds like he's in quite severe distress. So we're quite proud of Pickle Rick. Good on you for being
They said it.
putting it in there.
They said it sounded like he was
Very
hit with
vulnerable
a
Discord, isn't it?
yeah, like he got hit by a javelin and a machete, and it wasn't pretty. But he is back. So this is you can also win 5K Hero. This is the men's race we're talking about now. You can win 5K Hero by doing what Pickle Rick has done and just being like a vampire, refusing to die.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I mean, I think that part of our heroing is what's happening now. There's been an attack here. Who's gone? Hemker looks to be the one who's moved. No, they're looking.
Hawks.
They're watching. It's Hawks. Hawks has made the move, but he's got Grenier and Schaefer. Well, Schaefer's back at it. Geez, he's had a good day. And Nate Hawks, good to see him throwing down a little bit too. Again, this is like what's happening every lap. We're seeing these little breaks get away and get the first across the line points, but the main bunch is still able to sprint for the FTS. After this, I'm going to get Nathan to bring up the points board because I'm really curious as to what's happening back in that points board for the sprinters that we're maybe not seeing a lot of, but maybe going across the line. Grenier, depending on where you're from in the world. You can help me out with that one, Dave. He looks to be pretty motivated to pick these points up, and he's certainly keeping that pace very consistently high, around 7.5 to 8 watts per kg.
I don't want to bury the lead here, Kate, because Dan Pedrosa and Brian Diddy They were absolutely hysterical in some of the chats that we had during the earlier racing during EMEA today. Grenier is the rider that we're talking about there as we look at them rushing through the arch. 5 sprints today. Brett Boniface of OMG there. Oh my God, this is just unbelievable. That orange jersey, though, it's been really, really fun. We'll look at how the teams are standing as well as we're into the middle part of the season for season 3 of 2021-2022. It's the 6th actual season. And there, thank you, Nathan. What a great, we have the best producer in the world. Oh my God, they coached Kenny with 60 points. They've been perfect so far, but on the Rivet Haze has been right there. They've been second just about every week with TFC Scorpion there in a real battle with Dirty Rascals Riot on the Rivet rule number 5. I mean, this is a super competitive group, but 2 teams are starting to separate a bit here. OMG, they killed Kenny, and on the Rivet Haze. So OMG versus OTR. And they both have some real stars, no doubt about it. So far today, it looks like the black, orange, and white of OMG is getting it done. So Dan Pedrosa a couple of times then. That's how it's possible to have more points in that FTS, is that he now has scored in the top 10 twice at this point. So that would be the equivalent of a 1st and a 9th right now. I'm not exactly sure that's how it would have, but odds are actually pretty good that that's the way that you would get to 22 playing some FTS Scrabble
Well,
in my head.
now, before we came back onto this screen when we were over at the women, I said we'd talk about some riders that we just haven't seen much of. Dan Pedrosa has a huge circle around his name for me because we have not said his name once. We have not seen him at all. And it's because of those FTS points. He could literally have been sprinting from the very back of the pack in order to do that. He does have quite an enormous 15-second power average at around just over 16.3 watts per kg. So he's certainly on paper somebody who on this kind of course with a solid lead out from the bunch is very capable of producing a very quick segment time. So isn't that interesting that it is exactly
sure.
as we kind of thought, like, are there people scoring points that we haven't seen? Deirdre Douglas is not one of those riders because we have seen her all day. She was the first or second to attack. Now she is keeping at it. She is a little bit on a mission today, I think, to see if she can push off the front. Unfortunately, it hasn't resulted in a lot of points for her, but I definitely give her a lot of points towards a 5K hero. We're not too far off that, actually. Now, Danny Torelli is leading the points at the moment, 59, a massive 59. But I think more interesting is the spread of teams. So the top 4, all in different, top 5, all in different jerseys, Dave. So that's a bit of an evening of the playing field compared to some earlier seasons.
That's awesome. That is great to see. Talk about the spread of points being super interesting there. It's almost like for each team, it's like, okay, who's your top scorer? Okay, who's your second scorer? Okay, things are still even, and we keep working our way down. This is really, really exciting. I have to say, WCC has stepped up today, and we've got the throttle open. You can see the gantry there as more points are going to be available. So this will be updating very quickly. And it's the usual suspects. Joy Connolly with those 53 points. I think she's going to add 10 more to go to 63. Laura Thompson actually will hold on to her advantage in front of Connolly by a mere 1 point by that placing. So this is live in real time scoring that we're looking at. It's always interesting, isn't it? You can tell what riders came, Kate, to contest these sprints up on Monument. And that means now we're going to move on over to the Broad Street sprint. That's the last fastest through. And so that will solidify those points there. And Danielle Torelli, I need to mention her because she's just been outrageously strong for DDC out here. Let's see who's waiting in the wings now. Or will it be those same 3 again on our podium at the top of Libby? Now, we do have Broad Street coming up, a fastest through segment that's critical. This one, you get one shot, one crack at it, and also the point. So this is an all-in scenario that we've got. Things are hotting up for the women as they are 25K into a 33K race. But as they say, Kate, the sting is in the tail with this one. This is the transfer zone. that we're doing now. There's actually a significant amount of downhill to get all the way into the Foggy Bottom before you start on your way back up the race to the bottom of the cobblestones of Libby Hill. Now, here's a quick question for you, Kate. Are there any cobblestones in Australia? Would there be any reason for them to exist?
Oh, short answer, yes, but not many. Very, very few. In some of the oldest
Okay,
areas that we do have,
so they do
like in
exist.
Sydney, the Rocks, which is, where it was first colonised by the English settlers, they do have some, but really they're in kind of touristy areas where no cars really go, and they're very small and short. So, I mean, kind of technically
No
no.
Perry
And I think
Roubaix. Sounds like.
Australians, oh, heavens no. And I think when they get to Europe and they realize how much, not just cobbles, but just paved roads, it's such a mind spin. I had to catch myself there to not use a curse word, Dave. It's the Aussie in me. Every second word is potentially can get beeped out. Yeah, it's a bit of a head spin to realise that build so many of those little village roads with bricks. And it makes for really uncomfortable riding when you're just used to riding on beautiful
Oh yeah.
tarmac. So I think it's always a bit of a baptism by fire for the Aussies when they first go over there, and they've heard the mythical stories of the cobbles, but even when they do some of the criterions in the Netherlands through the little villages where it's all paved roads, they're a little bit like, why would they do this? This is a very inefficient way
Those
to
are the
build a road. I
smooth
think that's where
ones,
the Aussies come from. Yeah, and they're the
right?
smooth ones, but compared to tarmac, they're not, but certainly compared to actual pave, they're a walk in the park.
I would say that about the Libby Hill cobbles, to tell you the truth, is that they're pretty well manicured. It's not like they're huge jagged stones, and man, those what you see at Roubaix are just horrifically scary. So this is our front group for the women. So they got a big moment coming up. This might be the first time, Kate, that things have backed off at all, as they're bracing themselves now for the finale. Might as well collect yourself and get ready for the task at hand here. Dutch Diesel Cycling have been phenomenal out here, but they have really found a higher level. ATP has brought their A game. No question. Joy Connolly is an impact racer out here. And there's a whole bunch of names that you can look at that makes it incredible. So this is the best that we've ever had it in the West, Kate, as far as competitiveness goes here in this group. I
It
firmly
sure is,
believe that.
Dave.
Yeah,
It's
you're with me on that? Huh?
5K to go. I'm with you on that, and that made me think it's such a competitive group. What are we going to do here? Nathan, cue the little dance music for us. She's 5K to go. We can't talk about it in earnest until the sting, Dave. This is all protocol. Here we go. Woohoo! Now, if you didn't bop in your seat, Dave, then I don't think
I
we can be
did.
friends.
I was.
I have taken on board your suggestion, your vote for Laura Thompson.
Nice.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to overrule it, even though this
Oh,
is a democracy. There's ultimately
yeah.
only one prime minister,
Well,
and
what's the
that is
reality?
me in this position.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
well, Australia's only ever had one female prime minister, so happy to be the second. And that is to Deirdre Douglas. And
Oh,
I am choosing her today
I like it.
because I think that she has just done a tremendous job of continuing to try and be in the race, even though she hasn't accrued a lot of points. And we have just seen Joe Connolly take more sprint points again ahead of Danny Torelli, Rachel Winchester coming in there. But
And
Deirdre,
FPS, I think.
Dave, yeah. Oh, I think you might be right.
No,
We'll
but go
get those
ahead.
points up when we can.
No, speak to
Deirdre
5K, Kate.
is not the kind of rider who will easily accrue points on a course like this. She is definitely more of a diesel and better in the 20-minute power kind of scenarios rather than these more powerful sprint type races. But the fact that she has continually tried to be in the race and push the pace, that's what I love, the tenacity. So that's why she gets my 5K. And I also like to give one to the men. So we'll jump over to the men when they're at the 5K mark, and we'll deliver there too. But Dave, this is now where they head out to Libby Hill. So now they get to take a bit of a deep breath because it's coming.
Yes, Kate. So a couple things. I think that we might have seen Joy Connolly pick up the fastest through segment there as well at Broad Street. That's the one time they go through there. You're right. There are a lot of descending right now in this group. I think for the same reason with the men. So the 5K hero is not just about the most points. And those three riders, because obviously Joy Connolly, Daniela Torelli, and Laura Thompson have all been up there collecting the Lionesses' share of points, but maybe Pickle Rick. I'm liking his style. No
Ooh.
one has dug any deeper through. I mean, that guy has been through hell and back to stay up in this group. I'm not even sure if he's still alive at this point, from what we've heard over
We need to check in
Discord.
on the. Can
Yeah,
somebody
we should
check
check
in on
in.
Discord?
Dial
Just see that he's all
9-1 on
right.
your phone, and then just push one if you need it. Because I don't know what your 911
The,
equivalent is. That's the
the poor,
emergency
it's
services
triple
here.
O
Yeah.
in Australia.
Okay,
Triple
triple O,
O. So
right?
it sounds like poor Pickle Rick might have had an anvil sitting on his chest last time we heard from him. So hopefully that's been removed. Brett Boniface at it again. Looks to me like OMG have got a clear tactic here to just make sure it's hard and high pace for everybody. They've got one more sprint, Dave, and then they will be doing what the women are now doing, heading out toward the course for the Richmond World Championships
So
out to Libby Hill to finish at the top there.
So just like every hero has to have an anti-hero, Kate, like Batman has to have the Joker
Mm,
or Godzilla
right.
has to have Mothra. Well, Dan Pedrosa has got Brian Diddy. Have we mentioned Brian Diddy? Well, I guess we did briefly early in the broadcast, but he's been a superstar out of this group. TFC is his team, that yellow jersey. How are we not
Do you
going to be
think it's,
talking
it's
about
like
him?
his nemesis? You think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
his
They
nemesis?
they go they go to bed at night thinking about each other. They wake up in the morning wondering what that other guy's doing. They try to out train each other. They're so
I know
incredibly
you weren't
competitive.
trying to make that seem really competitive, but it actually sounded a little bit romantic.
Well, you know
Bordering
what's
on
funny? Well, it's funny you
like
say that.
stalking,
They
but
share the exact same sense of humor. They're total bros. There's a bromance going on in the
oh,
Zwift.
I
I
love
mean,
a
they're
good
totally
bromance.
yeah. Well, and that's you know what? What good is it racing if you don't have cool people to race against? And you know
Yeah.
what? It can go too far. I've seen it before here in America, Kate, where it goes to the point where they start actually really disliking each other and chopping and flicking, and it does go too far. This is where it goes to the right level where we want to beat each other, but we can absolutely crack a beer and share a laugh afterwards. And you know what? That keeps it even safer when you're going so damn fast and competitive. You really eliminate so much danger as well. That's the best way to race. And I think we're getting the best of that in esports too. One rider off the front here. And this has been the name of the game. Try to get out in front. It works. Well, they say 80% of the time, it works 20% of the time.
20% of the time it works 100% of the time or something like that.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying. No, it's working this
I
time. So
do.
how about them apples, right, Mike? Good job to Mr. Dawes. He does it.
Yeah, Mark Dawes got a pretty big
Mark.
kick
Mark.
on him too. So I think that he would be someone actually who could be quite successful up Libby Hill. But given the timing of that massive effort, that he might have just taken a little bit of the polish off in that occasion. But once again, where is Monsieur Pedrosa? He's just hiding. He's just being very efficient. We don't have access to their Discord, but it doesn't sound like anybody's giving birth over in that team right at the moment. From what we're seeing on the screen, at any rate. Now the women, this is the important bit. 1K to go, Dave. When they go around this hairpin, it's too early to go. Anybody who goes early on this course, or like that early around the hairpin, tends to
Oh
then
my
get reeled back
gosh.
in. It's a bit of a
Kate,
patience
you should have
game.
seen this guy Alvarado today in America's East. Caught. It was one of the. If we can go back and watch that replay at some point, I mean, you can. I'm sorry. Go through the archives at Zwift Community Live. One of the most impressive finishes that I have ever seen on Libby Hill. He closed down a 6-second gap on a two-rider breakaway, including a name you know, Bruce Bird, and then ended
Oh
up
yeah.
passing. ultimately, Alex Tenselhoff came back, but it was unbelievable. This finish has everything you're looking for, and these riders are down to about 600 meters to go. So taking a look now, some inventory. I completely agree with what you're saying, Kate. It's a fool's errand to attack too early in this group. And boy, the power up is critical. This is where the burrito, it's not going to get it done. Having the arrow to make yourself a little more slippery, or the draft would really, really help. But certainly the arrow seems to be what you're looking for. Riders already deploying that to stay in the group. So this means we're ratcheting it up. Kate, I'll throw it back to you as Hines is on the front for ATP. This looks like a move maybe to help Joy Connolly, actually.
This is good timing from Lisa Hines, actually. It is such a balance between going too early and making sure you are in the right position. They will turn a little dog leg up here, and that's where they do hit the cobbles and the very steep section. Hines needs to get out of her seat now. If she wants to keep this gap, this is where she needs to throw it all down. I don't think she's able to react to Thompson. Thompson draws even, overtakes quite easily with the use of a power up, but looking like she is completely in control. But are we going to see any movement from behind? I don't think anybody can match Laura Thompson here, Dave. But we do have Liana LeBlond coming. Oh, no, sorry, she's sitting back in about fourth. This is Becky Matro. No, Lisa Beep is
How about Laura?
that's just behind her. But Laura, what a easy, sensational victory from her. I think that
she's upset about the 5K hero.
Was a very good call. Yes.
Yes, she got snatched away. So she said, "I'm going to go get my prize then that they can't take away from me." I'm kidding, of course. Laura Thompson, you are a legend. And we're going to go back now. So taking a look, that is so more of the women finishing here on Libby Hill. These points all matter. So this is certainly significant here. Fantastic race from the women. Guys are, from what I hear, are just about to contest Broad Street Sprint, and that would be the fastest through segment as well. Back to the men's action now. We'll have a chance to review all of our results for you after the broadcast wraps up with the men's race, and live action is what we're returning to. And it is Grupo Compatto or Compacto. It depends if you're saying it in Spanish or Italian. But there's your attack. Back to you, Kate. That's going to be Schaefer hitting out.
Oh, Schaefer at it again. He has been active the whole day, but it is Daddy who is going for it. That kind of sounded funny. Trevor Daddy.
I think it's
Trev Daddy. I like it.
Diddy. Oh, it's Diddy's behind. This is Team Daddy.
We're looking at.
What?
Yeah, Trev Daddy.
Holy cow. So TFC is...
how unprofessional of me to laugh at the name. I apologize, Mr. Daddy.
So Trev Daddy, I'm data mining right now, Canadian rider. Showing up 47 level Zwifter, so tremendous amount of experience. He's been doing the Kirkmeyer series. So this guy's been racing and Zwifting quite a bit. Well, welcome to the big time. Beat Diddy and Daddy. Diddy Daddy coming at you right now in the TFC.
Oh, they're hanging out too. Yeah, matching jerseys, same team. Look, their team hasn't coordinated that well on the bike or the sock or shoe front, and I think if Anna Russell or the helmet front, if Anna Russell were here, she'd be shaking in her boots.
Boy, I heard that there was some pushback when Cy Bradley slammed her whiteboard. And said he didn't need it or something. Then I'm just kidding, Cy, of course. But Anna did not respond well to that, did she? So in putting down the whiteboard.
No, Anna takes her whiteboard is a member of her family. So we need to consider
she takes
that
it really seriously. Yeah,
she does take it very, very seriously.
Yeah. So
I think that we need to have the drum roll for our 5K hero. This is QU, Nathan. Bring us some juice.
So I don't want to, because obviously I poisoned the well with the previous women's race. So we're going to, I'm not going to tell you who I think. Just let it happen naturally. Who's it going to be?
Little dance there, little dance. I am going to give our 5K hero today, and I kind of feel like maybe you should have
Pickle Rick.
thrown a name in there.
Pickle Rick. Pickle Rick.
Look, he gets an honorary mention. Do we think
No
Pickle Rick?
way.
I mean, I'm happy to give it to Pickle Rick if you feel like that's the right thing to do. No, I am going for Schaefer. Hi there,
Good
Pickle
call.
Rick, you legend.
Good call.
Yep. We love how hard you've
Pickle.
worked to get back on. Honorary for Pickle. We will get you, maybe not pineapple lumps, maybe Anzac biscuits for you. But Schaefer, to me, he has just been so consistent with the way that he has tried to animate it. And I really appreciate the tenacity that he has shown. So he is my 5K hero tonight.
You know how he pushed it over the top for me was flying the Ukraine flag. I appreciate that. And I don't see a whole lot of them in this group, although we do see a lot of them out there on Zwift. And obviously, Putin needs to stop this war now. That's it. There's no more to say. Stop the war.
Absolutely. I don't think anybody could possibly ever be in disagreement about that. Now, Patrick Schaefer, I'm guessing his name is Patrick. Not because he's German,
when you guess
there's a lot of P's, like P before a German name. I'm just going to guess Patrick. And he was, how's this? This has got to be unique. The former German national tower running champion. Well, we can come back to that next week maybe, because we've got some big attacks coming to this final K. John Bird is the first to go. OMG are trying to respond. We did see our man Dan Pedrosa pushing up towards it, but John Bird, what a late minute flyer for him. They are approaching their hairpin. Now, if he can get to the hairpin with a 5-second break, he needs to get out of his seat and absolutely grunt it to the finish. And then I do think with his power profile, he can hold on. But Dave, this is going to be a pretty motivated bunch chasing, but it's opening slightly again.
Bike racing always amazes me. Like, you could have 3 guys named Ben King in the same breakaway. Same thing here. This is the second race in a row, Kate, that we've had a guy named Bird, last name Bird, in a breakaway, and it's not the same guy. What are the odds of that, right? Bird, when you translate it, is Vogel. You know Hank Vogel, I'm sure, Australian who raced in America for forever. Actually, was on top 6 at Paris-Roubaix. Hank Vogel. Vogel means bird in Dutch, right? It's a very common name. Right. So, birds all over the shop. No doubt about it. Is this one flown away? Very possibly. This advantage,
well, I think he has.
Yes, the bird has flown the coop.
They're further out than I did actually think when I first said that they were approaching that corner. But they are now about to go up onto that dog leg. So this is where Bird really needs to just keep that pressure on. But it's extended to 13 seconds. They're not even really chasing him anymore, not with any coordinated effort. We will start to see them jumping across, though, I think, not just to try and chase Bird, which I think the Bird has flown the coop, but to see if they can get the jump. And it is Patrick Schaefer, our German tower running champion, if you missed me saying that before, because I think that's sensational.
That's crazy.
So he's clearly very athletic. And I'm imagining the kind of build that has quite a lot of power, but not a lot of weight to it. And this would be a suitable sprint for him. But John Bird kind of taking the mickey here. What a sensational ride from him. And he's only a level 17 Zwifter. He's only done 12 races. He's pretty new to this. Jeez, he's doing it.
So this is interesting. So OTR is going to go clear. John Bird, congratulations. You are the next level rider out here. It's going to be Brian Diddy coming through. So Diddy getting the better in that battle with Pedrosa, but they're going to be neck and neck. This is all about the team points here. And OMG, looks like things are going pretty well for them. I haven't seen another yellow jersey coming through yet for TFC. And these are the 2 top squads as we look at the middle part of the season now that we're rolling through. This one is done and dusted. A brutal day of racing. It's the repetitive sprints, Kate, that make racing so tough out here. So, how about
Oh, yeah.
today, Patrick Schaefer as well? As we're going to be putting all the riders through because these points matter, as the finish line is where the points go the deepest. So those are all being tallied up right now. I don't know that we have a day that has more. That's where we started that points per minute conversation. Kate was thinking about today. The points just happen so rapidly with the distribution out there, and a day like today is racing at its best. Super fun. Uh, if I wanted to get a burrito in Sydney, Australia, would I be able to find one, or is that a mission impossible?
No, you would now, but 10 years ago, when I moved back to Australia and had been living in Colorado and had acquired the taste for burritos, you could not get one here at all. But I'm very happy to say that they have upgraded. And
Well,
we
that's
are
good.
very big fans of the burrito in Australia now. Although, and
Nice.
I didn't say this in game, Dave, but I always think it, I want the burrito power up to be that you can hurl a burrito at someone and take out their avatar. Anyway, I mean, the developers are obviously not watching because nobody's listening, or they think it's a crap idea. Probably the latter, to be honest. We'll get the results through when we can, when Nathan can throw those up for us. So he'll do that, and we can just recap again some sensational racing for today. Don't you think
I
that'd be
like
a
your
great thing
idea.
to be able to chuck a
100%.
burrito? It'd be fun.
Yeah, you and I are simpatico on a lot of this stuff, though. I can only imagine for the game designers what a challenge that would be. She had a ride today, Laura Thompson, way to Canuck up, the cadence rider, delivering, and she earned it too. She makes the most watts per kilo out here. So, Laura Thompson, that was a statement ride from you today. This is our finishing places that really doesn't tell the whole story. And I agree with you, Kate. It'd be interesting to take a look at the end of the day, but you can always go to WTRL.racing to see how all of those points were distributed. But let me run through our top 10 at the finish with NZ Bro, Wahine Toa, Lisa Sorelli is the American on that team for second, Leanne LeBlanc. Nice alliteration there for the third place rider out of Canada for West Coast Coalition B. ATP Racing Investment has Lisa Hines, the American, in fourth. Canadian Jana Gillick in fifth for West Coast Coalition. DDC Zena, the mighty, mighty Dutch Diesel, has Patricia Murray in sixth. She's American. Australian Selena Skyke in NZ Bro is the team for Wahine Toa in seventh. Joy Connolly had a great day today. Now, she would have been way up there in the points gain, and it still has enough left. Well, Laura Thompson, too, has enough points there, obviously, to end up eighth for ATP Racing Investment. Good job today, Joy. Camilla Rutford for Team F3 FBW in ninth, and then Stephanie Ossenbrink for Cadence. We didn't mention her, but she certainly was up there fighting today, and the Canadian ends up in 10th. That's your B women. The C's are finished, actually. Let me throw it back to you, Kate.
Let's take a look at this. There's a whole lot of Canadian flags up there, isn't there? Anne Bock from the
Wow.
herd of Misfit Meerkats ahead of her teammate Christine Barr. So they looks like they sprinted together up there in a bit of a break with Rebecca Cohen from West Coast Coalition C1. Megan Davies from West Coast Coalition C2 with her teammate Gower Kong. They were in fourth and fifth. Jamie Bramwell from Herd of Misfit Meerkats in sixth. Katie Slater. That's a very common and famous name in Australian sport, actually. West Coast Coalition C1. Marcy Varley from the Meerkats in eighth. Sandy Gold and Brigitte Rauman rounding out that ninth and 10th for Coalition Synthesis.
Slater is Kelly Slater as well, a very famous American surfer, Kate. So we're
We
big
see all the
Slater
names
fans
here.
here too, right? Let's take a look then at America's West Division One. I just don't want you to get like everyone to say, "Oh, that's an Australian thing." Americans are awfully proud of Kelly for sure. So, all right, A, and it was a bird kind of day out there. It was a Canadian kind of day as well. I have to give credit to our friends up north. They're really north from you, from your perspective. So far north, they probably seem south, actually, when you talk about Canada, right?
Yes, pretty much.
So I
Yes.
never thought about it from your perspective, but yeah, Canada, the quickest trip would be to go across the bottom part of the planet, I think. But anyways, on the rivet
Yes,
rule
over
number 5.
Antarctica.
Right, right. But yeah, they haven't hired me here for travel tips yet. So
No.
on the rivet rule number
Yet.
5 is yes, the team for the Canadian John Bird. John, that was sensational. Way to time that one and make a mark for OTR. Brian Diddy, always there. Mr. Consistency, great sense of humor as well. Love having Brian as part of our community. TFC Scorpion is his team. He's the silver standard. Brett Boniface or Boniface, depending on the pronunciation you go with. Brett, we love you. Keep racing your heart out. This guy's tremendous. And this is where OMG, they killed Kenny. They really come on strong here. Patrick Schaefer was tremendous today and on the Rivet Hayes. Certainly benefited from his outstanding effort. He ends up in 4th at the finish. This is finish line points or finish line placing, I'm sorry, that we're looking at. Dan Pedrosa in 5th for Oh My God, They Killed Kenny. Travis Frazier, 6th for the same team. Graham Hill on the Rivet Hayes is his team, the Canadian in 7th. Gabriel P in 8th for ATP Racing Arsenic. It's Nathan Hooks. He got up there. He's definitely picked up a lot of points. ATP Racing Arsenic is his team as well. On the rivet, rule number 5 is Tony Pletcher's squad. He was 10th. That's your top 10 for the A's. Back to you, Kate Bates, for the Mighty Bees.
Alrighty, let's take a look at these bees. That was a pretty tight finish for these top 3. Gary Forbes from TFC Pickle Juice taking it just ahead of his teammate Eric Larson, with another teammate Zafar Sidiquai. Also, the 3 of them, very, very tight finish. Bradford Redpath from the Dirty Rascals Bing Bong, that's a fun name. He came in 4th. Jacques Larcock, he came in 5th from KRTB Big Timbers. Benjamin Cristofori from the Dirty Rascals Bing Bong again. Sorry, I really need to grow up, don't I, Dave? Never. In 7th, we've got Devon Stewart from Sask B1. Keith Norris in 8th from Dirty Rascals Grit. In 9th, we've got John Meals. Yum, yum. TFC Pickle Juice. And in 10th, we've got Craig Noons from TFC Ronan. And pretty tight finish in that top 10. Only 7 seconds. That's the tightest we've actually seen across any of the categories so far.
I absolutely love Martin and everything he does from WTRL. They have set the table here for us to have so much fun. 14,000 racers, Kate. And Martin, who would know, telling us that the quickest way to Sydney from Canada is out over Hawaii and the Pacific. And I tend to believe him.
Oh, yes.
So on behalf
he would know
of
more than us, dare I say.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Tremendous racing again, Kate. This group is always so much fun. I know that you're already into your Wednesday. We've got knockouts to look forward to. I hope you have a chance to watch. It is going to be really fun. It's elimination racing. Oh, Nathan's got. So races are still out with the C's racing right now. Affogato. So I think that Nathan decided to make a statement, make me hungry here at the end of the day, as I could go for some vanilla ice cream and a espresso poured over the top. Sounds really good.
Yes.
Affogato.
Oh, I love an affogato. Drew Russ did a great job. Felix Maximilian, it looks like he came in 2nd place. And I think it was Liam Worrell from NZ Bro who might have come in. But this is a big bunch.
Sufferfest.
Enjoy the suffering. I like that. Did you see that name? Enjoy the suffering. That's like a fun little number plate.
So, Kate, this weekend I was in Levi's Grand Fondo, Levi Leipheimer. It's up in Santa Rosa.
Oh, cool.
We had 3,000 riders there. It looks kind of similar to that. Everybody out there, some of the riders did 140 miles with 14,000 feet of climbing.
Heavens.
It's really incredible to see, and raised over $150,000 for at-risk youth there in Sonoma County. A lot of really, really good work is done on the bicycle by folks. It does a heart good. And this Zwift community and WTRL community are absolutely amazing in their generosity. I always remember when Martin organized the World Bicycle Relief event, and I'm sure we'll do another one where people really show the big hearts. That segment right there, we're going to leave it with Zwift crushing daddies. This is one of Nathan's all-time favorite teams. It's a great name. There was a band called it's the Cherry Crushing Daddies. Am I right on that? Something very close to that. Yeah, but
we could have some
fantastic.
interesting conversations on that
Yes.
one. All right. Well, we
here we
do
go.
have figure eight teams time trial next week, Dave. So
All
that'll
right.
be 30K, 255 odd meters of vertical climbing. A very different scenario than what we've seen played out today, but plenty of time to have a little bit of fun with the names and pontificate, if you will, Dave, about what
Well,
some of
there's no
these
doubt.
acronyms might mean.
Well, that's funny because these teams in the C's, the names as the teams from the A's, the names aren't usually that funny, are they? By the time you get into the C's, you've got all kinds of creativity being shown. That's for sure, and that really is a
Yes.
hallmark of this. Is these guys part of what makes the racing happen is that they enjoy being with each other. We were talking about Discord earlier, and that communication amongst the teams. It's certainly part of the secret sauce of this whole thing. It has been a wild day of
Exactly.
racing. Yeah. So, well,
It
Kate, again,
has.
thanks so
Thank
much.
you for joining me again, Dave. Yep, we will be back next week. If somebody can please send a defibrillator and some water to Pickle Rick, that'd be great. We want to make sure that he's doing okay. And we will see you next
Someone
week in the
check on
playoffs in
him.
the meantime, Dave. So have fun
Yeah.
with that. Somebody please let us know he's good. All right. Thank you, Nathan, in the background. We will see you next week.